Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness.
Hi, welcome to the podcast, Calling All Siblings of Addicts. So welcome. Most siblings of addicts don't feel or take the time until they're older to evaluate and get help and try to make sense of what really occurred during their childhood. Because somewhere along the line, they experienced their own trauma, their losses, and their experiences with the addict. And so that needs to go somewhere. But until they're older, more mature, they can now go back and assess really what happened. Where did this all come about? Whose fault was it? All these little things that come about. I hate him. I'm angry. I'm angry at my brother and my sister. I'm angry that this happened. Look how horrible they were to the parents, and they see all these things that occurred all these years. But then they have milestones, they get married, they're graduating from high school, college, all these things. And they're noticing someone's not at the table, right? Because you see, when you're younger, you are more centered around yourself. And if you're in a certain type of home, you know that your parents are on it. They're taking care of the situation, and you're ignoring it anyway, because it's not you at that moment. And you have so much else on your plate, like your social life and school and your after school activities. And then you get into college and you're not home. So it's not in your face. And then you graduate from college and either you go on to get a job or you're going to grad school or in the field somehow, and you're not living home. So again, it's not in your face. Now, that's actually the best scenario for a sibling. They go on with their life. As much as they know they miss their sibling and someone's not there, they are still able to function and go on with their life and not have this weigh on their shoulder that it's their responsibility. Now, the other scenario is the sibling that doesn't feel confident enough that the parents are taking the proper role or guidance or doing enough and they're enough, and they feel like because the kid's not better, then it's the parents' fault, or maybe they didn't do enough. Their anger is going to come out in any way, shape, or form. They come home from college, they're living home now, and their brother's around or their sister's around, that's the addict, and he's in and out of rehabs. And it's bringing him right back into the bad memories, the lonely memories, because at the end of the day, your sibling is your sibling. It's family. It's someone you've been with. You did so many things with this person, and you basically have no connection with him anymore. That's a loss. Most people focus on, and most organizations focus on the parents coping with having a child that's an addict and the addict itself. So every so often you'll see something about, don't forget about the siblings. Okay, I know it is easy to forget about the siblings if you have all these other distractions going on, right? But it's challenging to keep it going so that all the kids in the family and the parents' relationship has that bond. That's something that has to be worked on. That's something that has to be constantly looked at. And as a sibling, you, I'm sure, know that parents try their best, but under certain circumstances, it's pretty much very difficult, because then you got to make choices between the addict and the other kids that are in the house. And those are probably one of the hardest choices that people have to make. So I broke this podcast down into 3 sections. The first section is the invisible victims. That's you, the sibling, right? You are the sibling. You are the invisible victim. As you get older, you're probably noticing and feeling it more and more. And you're kind of feeling bad. And then like you don't know why you're feeling so bad. And you're starting to like acknowledge these things again that happened in your life. Because again, you're noticing they're not there anymore. Much more than ever before. Totally normal. And if you haven't expressed these feelings all these years and bottled it up and acted like it wasn't your problem because that was your safeguard, it comes out. It definitely comes out. They say one of the things that you're most worried about is being like your sibling. So you don't want to take on and be like that. So you'll do the total opposite. And then you won't let too many people get close to you. And you'll have some more anxieties and kind of put up a border because you don't want to have that in your life ever again. Totally get that too. How do you get over that? That's addressing where you're at every stage in your life. It's not a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing that you don't always address it right then and there as a kid. Do you really understand? Can you really comprehend it? Do you really have the proper feelings until you mature and you look at your life and you're like, wow, look what he's or she's missing out on. Look what my sibling is not here in life for. And then you look around and you see other people with their siblings. And of course you feel like crap because my sibling's not there. My sibling's not moving on with their life. My sibling doesn't even talk to the family. So we don't even know where he is. Maybe they're in jail. Maybe you have a family that the kid is on the street and they're homeless, but you don't know where they are. There are a lot of different scenarios. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. At the end of the day, that sibling is not next to you. That sibling made poor choices and has an illness and doesn't want to get help. Or they got help, and then you got them help, or your family got them help, and then they went right back out and did it again because they have to want it. I think one of the things also to discuss here is, often it's, you witness your parents having so much emotions and the financial struggles and trying to help this addicted kid. And it's like, it's frustrating to the siblings because it's like, when are they going to stop? When are these people going to realize they're manipulated? They're enabling him. Stop. Until you're a parent yourself, you'll see how hard it is to stop. Anyone with a heart, anyone that has a heart beating and a pulse, you never want your kid to suffer. You never want to stop trying to help your kid. And I think that's one of the biggest things that comes with the siblings because they actually see it first. As they get older, they see it more and more clearer, and it's aggravating to them. And it almost gives them disrespect for people because they see that they're harming their sibling by doing it that way. When in fact, the parents are looking at it like, but they love their child. They don't want to harm it. They feel like the more they do, they can help and solve this, which in fact you can't, right? And everybody gets to that place at certain times in their life. So it is hard for that sibling in that respect. They also, they've got the anger, the fear, the neglect, isolation among the sibling because basically, who do they have to talk to about it? Who do they have to disclose how they really feel? Hopefully they have a best friend, who becomes kind of like your brother or your sister, whoever that is. And you're lucky. If you have that, you're lucky. It's like an adoptive relative. And it makes me sad as an adult because I know about my own son and I know what he experienced and having one sibling and that sibling not being there and looking back on your life and looking at all the experiences you had, and then it kind of like starts fading away because all you're starting to remember is the things that didn't happen, the things that were ruined, times when they weren't there, and all the effort and the money and the emotions that went into helping this person that you love so much, and even being manipulated yourself as a teenager, as a young adult. It's very hard to distinguish between illness and being manipulated by someone, and understanding that they don't have control over it until they're ready to get help and accept the fact that they're sick. So that's a big thing. And then it's the guilt. You've got guilt because you're unable to help your brother, just like we're unable to help him as parents. And then you start blaming possibly your parents. You're blaming your parents because you don't feel they're doing enough. Why isn't my sibling better already? Look at all the things you've done for them already. You're obviously doing something wrong. It's so easy for someone else to see from the outside. On their own, they see it didn't accomplish because you did all these things and it didn't work. The outcome wasn't what that sibling thinks it should have been. When in fact, there is no playbook here. Absolutely no playbook. What's going to work for one person is not going to work for another. And you can't be hard on your parents about this because they're doing the best they can with their playbook. And so until you're mature enough to see that and understand that we all mean well and the love is there, we know that. And all with the best intentions. But there does come a time when there's absolutely nothing a parent can do anymore. I remember being in a NAMI class, National Association of Mental Illness. I educated myself tremendously when this all started with my son about 14 and a half years ago. Didn't know a thing about mental illness or addiction, and he was already having psychosis. And so someone referred me to this organization, and it was amazing. I wish that more young adults that have siblings, maybe in their 30s, maybe when they hit 30, to go to one of these classes, to really see what it's about, to hear other people speak. I believe that right now in your 30s, you can understand it and comprehend it better than you would have been able to without being judgmental when you were in your 20s. But I do remember sitting around this room. There were about 15 people in the class. And this woman, young girl at the time, she had to have been, 24, 25. And she's telling me how she's upset because she knows exactly where her brother is. He's on a park bench. And she tries to go visit him all the time. And she brings him food. And she's so angry at her parents. She feels like her parents gave up on him. And they won't help him anymore, and they won't go see him, and they won't bring him food, and they won't reach out or try to do another thing for him. Now, back then, I gotta be honest with you, it was the beginning of my journey with this. So I was like, wow, those parents gave up on him? How could they do that? And now they're letting this sibling take over and have to deal with this situation, and now all her guilt and her feeling like what more can she do, and it's on her shoulders when she feels it should be on her parents' shoulders and they've just given up. Very interesting, because that's exactly how people look from the outside that have no clue to have any understanding about any of this, about mental illness, about addiction. And it's okay to say you don't know. But what happens is most people take on this judgment, and they don't mean it in a bad way. They're just judging because they think they're educated when they're not. They have no clue. And here I was thinking to myself when I'd left the class, oh, this poor girl. I'm the first one who told my other son, you need to go on with your life. This is not your responsibility. And I made sure to do that. That doesn't mean that your kid goes on with their life and doesn't think about their sibling and doesn't hurt and doesn't cry and doesn't feel that pain that you feel. Absolutely. But it does relieve them. And the thing is that what happened with this girl, and through all my experience through the years, I know exactly what happened. The communication between the parents and the siblings was broken. So there was no communication. And there was no explaining to the sibling why they were doing the things they did, what they did along the way. You know, one thing I do believe that my son understands, and maybe he's a little healthier because of it today, I never kept him in the dark. I always embraced and explained to him about the steps that I was taking every time I took another step. He even went with me to one of the rehabs to see it before I sent him there for a second rehab stint, and I wanted to check it out and see about the therapy they had there, what was available. And when I went there, I brought my other son along with me. And I'm really happy I did, because it gave him also through the years different understandings of the steps and where I was with this whole journey. And it's important to bring your kid along, just like I brought him to an Al-Anon meeting. You know, he didn't love it, and it definitely was a very emotional meeting I brought him to. Not all of them are like that. He just happened to have been at a very emotional one. And he did leave with me, and he said, I'll never forget him turning to me and saying, you know, this is great for you, but I'm never going back again. I think personally, for a kid that's 20, 23, I think it's a little much to go to one of those programs. I don't think they're ready for that. I think people in their 20s, young 20s siblings, are more ready for a one-on-one discussion, are more ready to hear from someone who's experienced this from the outside in, that can evaluate it and give them some good perspective, and not their parents. Because somewhere along the line, no matter how well you communicate, it doesn't matter. Your kid is hurting. And if they don't take the steps to help themselves, it gets bottled up and turns into all different types of things. Anger, anxiety, all kinds of things. And if they're not willing to see someone and speak to someone, then you need to continually chat with them and keep them informed of your feelings, what you're doing to help yourself, what you're doing to make life okay for our family, for me to be okay, because as a parent, you're the family unit. You are the core. If you can be okay and have your stuff together emotionally, then you will be able to go on and be a mother, a grandmother, a mother-in-law, and you will extend your family, and you will extend your friends, and life will go on. But when you as a sibling sees your parents stagnant, not going on, I don't really think there's a lot of respect there, is there? No. And how do you move on from there? What if you're that kid that's listening to this now and you're saying to yourself, that's my parents. They still haven't moved on. They're living in, I'm going to go help and fix this thing. And they're losing out on life. They're not coming to spend time with me where I live because they're so busy worried about this other kid that they've spent years on, that it hasn't helped. I get that. And that's anger. Oh, you're entitled to that. Because it's frustrating to you because you already see from the outside in what's going on. It is so hard for someone to give up. You know, I love when they say, oh, don't give up on hope. Really? Well, you know what? You never really give up on hope. But hope is at a very far distance at times. And what really gets you is you look at yourself and say, am I really living? Am I really living and being there for myself? Because I know I'm not being there for my other kids. I know I'm not being there and able to move on so fast. I know when a holiday comes that I cry and I look around the room and I see around the table who's missing. You know, it feels so good. Because I've done so much work through the years. You think it's come easy? So what? It's come so hard. You are no different. I'm no different than any single person. but I'm not looking around the table anymore, and it's not affecting me as much for the holidays because I've embraced other love in my life. I've allowed other love to take on that space. And that makes me feel good and that I've accomplished something. And I feel like people hold out from bringing love in to protect themselves. To protect themselves because they see what can happen. And then also, it's not so easy to give love because you've given and look how disappointed you've been. And maybe you've seen your parents play certain roles and you're so disappointed in your sibling how they could possibly act this way and have gone this route, which in turn by now you should know that it's an illness. And they got to crack. Moving on to section 2, dealing with denial and enabling. So this is what happens when either one parent or both parents, it's a straining of their relationship. It's restraining. It's debilitating to the rest of the kids in the family. It's a mess. Your whole family's imploding at this time because no one's on the same page. And, I remember someone saying to me, well, does your husband at the time or ex-husband, are you guys on the same page? Because if you're not, then don't even bother. I didn't understand back then what they meant at all. And I didn't understand why that mattered. It matters. It matters. In a big way, it matters. So, it's worth to get a third person involved if needed, to have those discussions with the two of you together, with your family, with your parents, the siblings, to get everyone on board together. And the siblings need to recognize, that they can't control their parents' relationships or the addicts. And it's not their problem. And it's not your problem. And that's something else that is a big factor in this. Siblings often take this on themselves, having the guilt and feeling like it's their fault because if they feel like their parents aren't being productive with this, if their parents aren't going out of the way to do what they feel is right, then they're feeling guilty because they're not doing it. And basically what needs to be done is the parents need to tell you, and if your parents haven't, I'll tell you, you need to focus on you, your mental health, your life. Okay? Because just like that girl that I spoke to that was in that class with me, and I'll never forget this, and when she turned to me with tears in her eyes, she goes, I just feel like the whole, like the weight's on my shoulders, like I can't do anything. I'm debilitated. He's taken so much of my family's life, and now look at us. I'm angry at my parents, and there's my brother on a bench in a park, and he won't leave, and it's just terrible, the whole thing. And she said, I don't know where to turn. I remember that as if it was yesterday, and I was already judging the parents. Oh my God, how could they just let this kid go? How could they not do whatever they can to get him off that bench and get him into rehab, get him into a mental institution, anything, to the hospital? But I get it, because that wasn't the first stint. It was over and over and over again. And there's only so much someone can do. It doesn't mean that your parents haven't done what they need to do. And you know what the interesting thing is? The parents that I've worked with through all these years and have spoken to, and all my experience, the ones that have listened to me when the chaos first started, they didn't know where to turn, they didn't know what to do, he's stealing, he's getting kicked out of this program, he's getting kicked out of there, he's dropping out of here, they're finding drugs everywhere. That is that moment. That is that moment where you have to acknowledge what's going on. And as a sibling, I understand it's even harder because, if your parents are in denial, then you feel you need to get them out of denial. And yeah, that's a nice thing to do. If you can do that and it's not taking too much strain off your life, and you do it and then you move on, because you can't sit there your whole life trying to explain to your parents what's going on. And I know that what was going on. I couldn't stop it. I didn't have help to stop it. I didn't have what they have today. They have a lot more resources, but not really. But they do have more people that are educated, more interventionists, more people that can coach you and help your family move on healthy. Maybe the addict will be okay and maybe not. Who knows? Maybe you're sitting here and your sibling died. What a horrible thing. And you're trying to figure out where your place is now, because your family's all grieving and everybody's upset and they're angry at each other and blaming each other. Got to get the blame out. Forget it. Get the anger away. You got to start over. You got to start looking forward. You can't look back. You cannot ever look back like that. You have to move forward, because you could spend your whole life looking back. You'll never move forward emotionally. And you know what? You have a whole life to live. And so do your parents. And so do your other siblings. And it could be beautiful. Out of all the ugly, it can be beautiful. And I really think that it is a state of mind. That, I believe, completely comes with maturity. I always say to people, people say I have this sign in my kitchen, and it says, "Today is the best day ever." And it's not the best day. Nope. And then I wake up the next morning and I hope today's the best day ever. And it's probably not the best day ever. But you know what? I have hope that there is a best day ever. And today might be it. And whatever that best day ever is to you, why not think that it's available? Why does it have to be doomsday? Because someone in your life made choices due to their illness instead of being able to control it. And it's a sickness and it's an illness, but you could only do what you could do, just like your parents. And that's why, even like, you don't need to express to your friends all the time. You need one friend that knows what's going on in your house. That's it. And you move on. Everybody doesn't have to know your story. You don't have to feel compelled to tell everybody everything that's going on. That's not going to make you feel better. But confiding in someone, yeah, that will make you feel better. And when you meet people through your life, yeah, as you get older, you'll feel better about it and you'll be okay. I say I have no problem. Some people come up to me all the time. "Oh, tell me about your kids. You have kids?" I sure do. I say, I have one. He's 31. I have another one. He's very ill. That's it. I leave it at that. And then they start asking more questions. And I briefly say, "You know what? He's just ill. We're going to leave it at that." Why? Why should it be about me? Why should I bring in and tell him his story? It's not my story. It's their story, just like it's not your story. It's your sibling's story. And that's where you have to get to. That's the place where you have to feel okay. And I got to tell you, after 14 and a half years, and I went to a wedding, and someone came up to me and said, "Oh, do you have another sibling? Does your son have another sibling?" I almost died. I didn't even know how to react or what to say to this person. I knew I wanted to cry, and the tears did start to almost roll. And I just said, "No, I have a son that's ill." And I walked away. I couldn't even look at the person. I wasn't prepared. Now, this is 14 and a half years later. Why? Because I was at someone's wedding and it was emotional. It was emotional because I know my son, as of now, I won't be doing that and celebrating with him. I missed his graduations because he never did make that. And I missed a lot of milestones in his life. I can't remember the last time I had a birthday with him. But you know what? You as a sibling, you don't either, right? You're experiencing exactly what your parents are experiencing. No different, no way how. Difference is you just didn't give birth to them. That's it. But a sibling is a sibling. And of course you're in pain. You've got to work through that pain. You've got to communicate that. And you know what? You can't even do it really to your parents. Because kids today, parents say one thing, and it's as if like we're saying the wrong thing. Or, we know nothing. When did I become the stupid one in the crowd? I'm not stupid. I have tons of life experience. That makes me smart. So I say like this. If you feel that way, why hold it in? Why keep it bottled up inside? You're entitled to help. You should be getting help just like everybody else. And then you move on. And, also the other thing is that, if you have a parent that points things out to you, if you don't have a parent, which is fine, not everyone's like that. If you don't have a parent that's going to address your outbursts or address some anxieties that they see in you or point out some ways that you might be able to work around them, maybe it's time for you to get some help. Maybe it's time to address what it is that makes you so angry and the fact that you're angry. You're angry and you're hurt. And it comes out in different ways, and that's how you express it. But that's okay if you acknowledge it, and then when you express it that way, you'll just acknowledge it. Eventually, listen, everybody's going to have their own kids, and the first thing that you're going to do is, I know, because when you have a sibling that's an addict, boy, you're going to be on that kid with drugs and alcohol and all those other things, because you're right. You've been in a household like that. What to look for. I noticed through all the therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists that I've been speaking to through the years, one thing that's constantly over and over and over again being told, you gotta catch this early. And when you start seeing odd behaviors in 7th and 8th grade, which is when it starts in middle school, you need to address it that moment. And that is a sign that you need to hold on to. So there we go. Now you have a tool. Now you should feel confident. Now you should feel good that you're going to be on alert. And that doesn't mean because you have kids, your kids are going to end up like your sibling did. It doesn't work that way. So the last thing I'm going to talk about and then finish up is, acknowledging it's complex emotions, and it's very hard to acknowledge that and address them until you're mature enough to admit that yes, you have a brother, you have a sister, you lost them. They might not have died at that moment, or maybe they did. But you have a loss because they haven't been in your life for so long. It's a loss. And it's hard to get the family back all together as a unit until everyone has gotten to that point of acknowledgement and able to move on emotionally. And I noticed even for myself, like there were times when I'd start talking about my addict and to my other son. And I realized it's not important to say anything. It's really not for me to mention to him anymore. Because we know the elephants in the room. We've spoken about it plenty. We both know the situation. And so does my ex. Everybody knows the situation. We don't really need to talk because we're all on the same page and we're all emotionally at that stage where we've experienced this for so many years, and everyone's, in their own way is constantly trying to work through their own emotions with it, because that's the only thing you could do. I love when they say you're not alone, and I'll admit I say it as well. I disagree. You are alone. You're alone. You're alone, and I can help you as much as you want me to, but you're still alone. You need to figure this out. You need to be able to step up and say, okay, I have a loss, but I am not going to let that stop me living for the rest of my life. When you could do that, then you've graduated. Then it's there. That loss isn't leaving you. It's just like a death. It's like when you say to someone, how are you doing? How do you think I'm doing? It's awful. It's awful. I love when people say, have you heard from him? What do you mean have I heard from him? I haven't heard from him. Of course I'm not going to hear from him. What do you think all of a sudden one day he's going to get up and okay, that's it? When they start having, and it's a long time with psychosis, mental illness, with drugs, it takes a lot more than just one phone call, I need help, okay? And that's why addressing issues sooner than later does help and has a better outcome statistically. Now, what I will say at the end of the day is you need to, and I promise you, look at your pictures, preserve your memories, cry. It's normal. It's good to do that every so often. Look at all the times. Remember the vacations. Remember hanging out. Remember going to the hotel and swimming in the pool and going down the slide. Remember the holidays. Remember yelling at each other or arguing about something and fighting over a game. Why not? Those are your memories. Don't let anybody take away a memory from you. They're not entitled to it, and they don't deserve to do that. You're a sibling. You have the right to feel the way you do, just like a parent. You are right there. Difference is you didn't give birth. I hope this helps you. And if you need, listen again. Reach out, email me, ask me some questions if needed. I'm here to help. I really feel there's a big lack of helping adolescents with their siblings that are addicts, and they need just as much help as parents. And it's not so easy to say, oh, go to a meeting. Oh, go here, go there. Oh, join a group. Go online and start texting people. I go online and I listen to what people say. I've been hearing the same things for 14 and a half years. It's a little scary when someone first goes online to start reading all these things without being properly educated or in the mental state of mind to be able to handle it. So, yeah, you don't need to feel alone. That's basically what it is. You are alone, but you don't need to feel alone. Have a great day, and I hope you continue listening, and thanks for coming.